yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We wait just a couple of seconds more in order to be
That's a good idea.
Sure that everybody's there.
I think you can start slowly and then.
Yep.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Innovation Fund 2025 Info Day. My name is Tufik Ismail, Senior Consultant at P&O Innovation, and I will be your moderator throughout today's session. We are very pleased to see so many participants joining us today, and I noticed that additional attendees still connecting. So while we allow a brief moment for everyone to join, I would like to take this time to provide a few practical remarks before we begin. This webinar is being recorded. All slides will be shared with you afterwards, and the video will be published on the DIAMONDS4IF YouTube channel. Please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A chat at any time during the session. We will respond in writing throughout the webinar, and we will return to the most relevant questions during our dedicated Q&A at the end. If you want one-to-one meetings with our expert, yes, please just give us a hint. So let me briefly walk you throughout today's agenda. We will begin with a welcome and team introduction presented by Patricia Bolognese for DIAMONDS4IF project coordinator at P&O Germany, and Roberto Conti, innovation consultant and LEADS project manager at P&O Italy. Following this, Colin Perrin, energy and environment team leader at P&O, will provide an overview of the Innovation Fund program and the novelties of the Innovation Fund 25 call. We will then continue with a presentation on the heat auction delivered by Barbara Van Doubt, senior consultant at P&O Innovation Germany. After that, we will move into the award criteria session presented by Dr. Susan Pullers, senior consultant and at P&O Germany, and myself. We will then hear from Andrea Rausa, EU funding coordinator and LEADS coordinator at P&O Italy, the main challenges and lessons learned from previous Innovation Fund applications. Finally, we will conclude today's event with an open Q&A session during which we will address your questions together with a full panel of speakers. And with that, yes, please.
In chat, there are some remarks. Some participants cannot hear. So I wanted just to have a couple of feedback if you can hear us, or it's just a problem of.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Okay, we have some. Okay, somehow Maybe those one who cannot hear, try to reconnect. And I wanted just to say your mic are disabled, but you can write all your questions in the Q&A session.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly.
And everything you didn't catch, you will get it by video later on. But yes, please check your audio.
Okay, sorry for the.
No, thank you for doing that. I can't see the chat because I'm presenting, so thank you for that, Patricia. I would like to hand over to Patricia and Roberto for the welcome and team introduction.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Patrizia Bolognesi. Welcome to our webinar. I am the coordinator of the DIAMONDS4IF project, which is together with LEADS project, one of the two projects that have organized the webinar today. So welcome everybody. LEADS and DIAMONDS4IF are two of the 5 CSA projects which were founded from the European Commission with the goal of support, of give the opportunity to support potential investors from Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe projects in the complex EF application process. Each of us, of each of these 5 CSA projects, support and target a different sector. So we have, for example, CCUS, renewable energy, energy-intensive industries, hydrogen, and energy storage. In particular, DIAMONDS4IF and LEADS are both coordinated by P&O Innovation. Next slide, please. P&O Innovation is a founding, a consultancy company which combines the expertise in funding schemes, here of course the Innovation Fund, and with industry-specific needs and innovation solution. Just to give you an idea, we are more than 600 employees and we are active in 10 European countries. And in the last Innovation Fund call, 13 out of 61 selected projects were submitted by P&O Innovation in general in Europe. Next slide, please. As I say, DIAMONDS4IF is one of these CSA-funded projects. We focus on projects active in the renewable energy sector. We want to support transformation of H2020 research results into Innovation Fund ready project. So we ensure readiness and feasibility of the project ideas, and we try also to empower applicants with ad hoc created tools, guidelines, video tutorials, and of course our expertise. We have 5 partners in the consortium. 3 of our partners are industrial partners, and they are our use cases. So they are the partners which comes from the H2020 research results and have applied or will apply in the next EF in the EF call. Next slide, please. But beyond these core use cases, we and also LEADS, we always look for more use cases, for more project and project idea, which we can support in the Innovation Fund application process. The idea, as you can see in this picture, is to spring or to do a connection, a bridge between H2020 results into the Innovation Fund, and of course upscaling the research idea into the commercial level. Next slide. Who can be supported? Of course, organization involved in general for the Innovation Fund, organization involved in the following sector and activities. But as I said, the DIAMONDS4IF focus on renewable energy sector and LEADS focus on carbon capture, use and storage. The projects have to do investment in European and EEA countries, and of course your contribution in the GHG emission saving must be significant. We will speak about it later on, more specific. But and last but not least, your project has to have an innovative concept which is significant different from the competitive solution on the actual market. Next slide. We can say that the Innovation Fund journey can be divided into 6 steps, and Diamonds give a free support in the first 3 steps. The most important one is the viability check, which is the first step, which you can see on the left side. And after the viability check, you can go to the next slide. We can give you a kind of, we will give you a viability report and a recommendation for go or no go decision. And of course, if the recommendation from the viability check is a good one, you can go to further to steps 2 and 3, and of course to all the others. You can go to the next slide. And I wanted just to show you, we as Diamonds, we are present on, we have a website, we are on LinkedIn, we have a YouTube channel. In particularly on the channel, you will find the registration of this meeting. And if you have any questions or doubts, you can always contact us. I give the floor to my colleague, Roberto Conti from the LEADS project.
Thank you, Patrizia. Hello, everyone. I'm Roberto Conti, P&O Innovation Italy, and I'm a project manager for the LEADS project. As Patrizia said, LEADS project as a sister, CSAs is a project of DIAMONDS4IF, share the same objectives, but LEADS is focused on the carbon capture, utilization, and storage sector. So the objectives are the same. So basically helping project owners with Horizon projects to bridge the gap to Innovation Fund. The consortium is built on 7 partners, P&O Innovation as a coordinator and as a Innovation Fund expert. Will follow the project owners and help the project owners to prepare the Innovation Fund proposal as a technical consultant. In collaboration with Admiris is another partner, it's a Greek partner, specifically focused on the GHG emission calculation and life cycle assessment. Furthermore, we have Aspire and the IDE cluster as a carbon capture, utilization and storage promoters, and big tank Aspire, for instance, for H2020 portfolio management. Aspire, in addition, is also the dissemination and communication leader in the LEADS project. Finally, we have 3 partners as project owners with already completed Horizon 2020 projects. They are the use case for testing our approach. Next slide, please. Okay, so LEADS is built on what we call innovation funnel approach. It's quite similar, of course, to what already explained by Patrizia. So we have a first step, that is the mapping and selection of projects to include it in our pipeline. This process is a continuous process. So also now organization involved in CCUS activities can be selected to be part of the pipeline. So you can also contact us to ask for a pre-selection of the pipeline. We mapped 40 projects at the beginning. Now we already mapped 95 projects. We did the preliminary assessment. So basically, after preliminary assessment, the projects we consider enough mature to be part of the pipeline enter in the innovation funnel. And the innovation funnel is built by a first step, that is the viability check, where the leads expert are going to evaluate the gap analysis and the project, horizon project in details. If the projects are mature, they go through the coaching and training session. So they receive from leads expert coaching and training to prepare the innovation fund proposal. Across the board, we have also the development of tools and services within the project. So we developed training modules, webinar, guidance, self-check questionnaire to help the projects within the pipeline to better understand how the innovation fund works and what they have to do for preparing the innovation fund proposal. Next slide. I can show you in this slide. I show you two tools already available on our website. So we developed a self-check questionnaire. So basically, all project owners, everyone can test by themselves this questionnaire to evaluate the maturity level of your project. You are going to receive a score about your project following the evaluation criteria of the Innovation Fund program. Then we are going to receive your assessment. We can also contact you, and you can use as well this self-check questionnaire just as an information questionnaire to better understand if you are ready or not for an innovation fund. Furthermore, we developed 6 guidelines as a leaflet. You can see here in the picture just one example. You can find all the guidelines in our website. These guidelines would be useful to have an overview about the several criteria of the innovation fund. It could be helpful to have a preliminary information. So next slide. I'm going to conclude just inviting you to visit our website and also to follow us on LinkedIn on LEADS CCUS project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia and Robert. We now move to the next agenda point, the introduction to the Innovation Fund program and the novelties of the IF25 call. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Colleen, Energy and Environment Team Leader at P&O Italy. Please.
Thank you, Tufik. Good morning, everyone. My name is Colleen Perrin. I'm responsible for the Energy and Environment team here at P&O Italy, and I will introduce the main characteristics of the Innovation Fund grant scheme. The Innovation Fund is one of Europe's key instruments to decarbonize the industry, with over 40 billion euros put in budget over the 2020s to bring low carbon technologies to the market, helping the EU and the EEA countries reach climate neutrality. So far, the Innovation Fund grant has supported 4,500 innovative ideas, more than 500 projects, and overall the Innovation Fund has helped avoid 300 million tons of CO2. So it's an extremely high impact program. The Innovation Fund can be divided into 2 forms. On the one hand, the grants that are direct subsidies, and the auction, one for heat and one for hydrogen. I will be focusing on a grant right now, while my colleagues will later on introduce the various auctions. Next slide, please. Every year, the Innovation Fund publishes several calls targeting specific sectors. It finances low-carbon technologies in a wide range of areas, from energy-intensive industry, renewable energy, energy storage, mobility, building. So in essence, all key sectors covered by or related to the EU ETS, so the European Trading System, to support a Green Deal by reducing emissions and boosting European competitiveness. It's important to note that Innovation Fund has the particularity of financing both highly innovative and very mature projects in these sectors, which makes writing the project quite a balancing act, but we'll deep dive into that in the next slides. Every year, the Innovation Fund grant publishes several calls targeting specific sectors, specific scales, or specific technologies. These include the general decarbonization call. So you have 3 of them, 1 large, 1 medium, and 1 small scale, with respectively 1.2 billion euro budget, 300 million, and 100 million euro. Then you have the clean tech manufacturing calls for producers of technologies such as electrolyzers, batteries, heat pumps. It has a 1 billion euro budget. And finally, you have the pilot calls dedicated to highly innovative demonstrations with 300 million euro budgets. Those of you who know the Innovation Fund already from last year, for instance, see that the battery call has not been reconducted. Batteries are now included into the clean tech manufacturing calls. Another important change is that the overall budget has been increased by about 20%. So going from 2.5 billion in total to 2.9 billion this year, with most of the increase going to clean tech manufacturing, with plus 300 million euros in the budget, but also a slight increase in pilots and mid-scale, where the budget has been increased by 100 million euros in each compared to last year. This year, the Innovation Fund grant scheme opened on the 4th of December, so you can already find the latest and updated call text, and will close on April 23rd. If we go to the next slide, we're going to deep dive into the various calls of the Innovation Fund grant scheme. So you see each topic has its own scope. General decarbonization finances typically low carbon technologies in the EU ETS sectors, CCUS, renewable energy, and mobility. So it's divided in 3 baskets of financing depending on the scale of the project. That's what we were mentioning before. You have small scale for projects with capex under 20 million euros. You have mid scale for projects from 20 to 100 million euros, and then large scale above 100 million. This essentially remains unchanged compared to last year. An important change, however, in these categories is on hydrogen projects who are now only eligible to the small scale under the general decarbonization window. On the clean tech manufacturing, on the other hand, it finances projects that manufacture innovative clean tech components for hydrogen production, hydrogen consumption, renewable energy, and energy storage. So really oriented towards strengthening the European industrial value chain for key green transition components. And this includes battery production, for instance. Finally, the pilot topic aims at financing projects that focus on validating, testing, and optimizing highly innovative, deep decarbonization solutions in all the sectors that are eligible. And I stress highly innovative here because in this case, the degree of innovation score counts double, and the evaluators look for actual breakthrough technologies. To understand a little bit better what we mean when we say the degree of innovation score counts double, we'll take a quick look at the evaluation criteria. I will introduce them rapidly, but then my colleagues Tufik and Suzanne will give you a deep dive explanation of what exactly is expected under each of the criteria. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So each proposal submitted to the Innovation Fund grant is graded based on 5 evaluation criteria. Only proposals that pass the minimum thresholds and score the best receive funding, which means that this is a competition. You can have a great project with a high score. If your competitors did better, you're not guaranteed funding. So the evaluation, the way the evaluators evaluate these proposals follows a cascade approach. It means that proposals must pass each criterion before moving on to the next. And if they fail in any of the thresholds, the process stops and your proposal is rejected. The first criterion is degree of innovation. So that's what we were mentioning before with the pilots, where this specific criteria counts double. Here, evaluators look at how far the project goes beyond the state of the art. So not just small improvements, but really meaningful technological process and business model innovation. They compare it to what already exists on the market, but also technologically, including previous Innovation Fund projects. If the project does not clearly demonstrate innovation, the assessment stops here. If it passes, evaluators move to the GHG emission avoidance. So the absolute and relative emission avoidance, but also the quality of the GHG emission avoidance calculations, meaning whether the modeling follows the official Innovation Fund methodology, which is also published by CNEA and you can find online, and confirming that the project uses the correct boundaries and it meets minimum requirements. Again, if the calculation is incomplete or if it's not credible, the proposal is rejected and the evaluation does not go on. If it does go on, the evaluators look at project maturity with 3 sub-criteria: technical, financial, and operational maturity. Here they check essentially whether the technology is ready to be deployed, if the permits, the engineering work are advancing, and whether the funding plan is credible and above all supported by evidence. They also look at whether the implementation schedule, the procurement, the risk management are realistic. So it's a very comprehensive picture of your project that they look at here. Each of these sub-criteria has a minimum threshold. Failing any of them stops the evaluation. Only then do evaluators look at cost efficiency, so the cost per ton of CO2, and the quality of the cost calculation, of course. Again, weak and non-transparent, non-credible calculations result in rejection. Once the project has cleared all these gates, they look at replicability, so the ability for the project to be scaled, transferred, replicated across Europe, across sectors, and how it contributes to the EU industrial leadership and competitiveness. Finally, projects can earn up to 3 bonus points. So if they deliver net carbon removal, if they contribute to decarbonizing the maritime sector, or if they're coordinated or implemented by an SME. So in short, and of course, we'll deep dive into each of these criteria and what exactly is expected and how you can score the highest possible on these criteria. In short, the Innovation Fund evaluators prioritize innovation, real measurable GHG impact, maturity, and cost effectiveness. Only projects that are strong and well evidenced, and we cannot stress enough the well evidence across all the dimensions, have a chance of getting funded. For those of you who do have experience in Innovation Fund, you see that there are a series of changes between 2024 and 2025. Thank you, Tufik, for the slide. Aside from the budget increase that we already looked at, there are some quite substantial changes compared to last year. In particular, in 2025, there's an important new element inside the GHG emission reduction criterion and inside the replicability, which is the do no significant harm principle, or DNAH. For each relevant economic activity in a project, you must demonstrate compliance with the technical screening criteria of the do no significant harm, which is established in the EU taxonomy regulation. This regulation presents 6 environmental objectives. Concretely, this means you need a clear understanding of the impact of your project on these 6 environmental objectives, which are climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, sustainable use of water, circular economy, pollution prevention, and biodiversity protection. In the replicability criterion, another important change has been implemented. You see, for instance, that further deployment, which used to score 5 points, has been removed. And instead, these 5 points are now graded under the EU industrial leadership, which was already an existing sub-criterion. There is no substantial change in, let's say, in the expectations under the sub-criterion, but there is in a context a reinforcement of the wording on what, for instance, infrastructure integration means, or what EU know-how protection means. But essentially, the approach is the same. Bonus points have changed as well. We used to have 4 of them. We now have 3 bonus points. Other GHG emission and RF and BO, additional renewable energy, have been removed. So they no longer represent an opportunity for an extra point. On the other hand, the CNEA has decided to award a bonus point to projects that are led and implemented by SMEs. The definition of SME here is the official definition of the Commission. It's defined in a regulation, and an important element is that it has to be, the consortium has to be essentially all SMEs. Finally, the term sheets and the support to the project, the letters of support, are now mandatory. It was already implied, as Innovation Fund is a justification-driven program. So if you didn't have letters of support, head of terms, memorandum of understanding, you were likely not competitive anyways. But now it's made mandatory. Mm-hmm. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, but just take a look at the time, Colleen.
Yes, absolutely. So I just wanted to show you here what exactly the evaluators look at when they grade you. They look at your application, which is composed of a lot of different documents. So you have a main description of the project, Part B, supported by a series of mandatory supporting documents: financial information file, participant information, feasibility study, business plan, detailed financial model, GHG emission calculation, and so on and so forth. Needless to say, it's not an easy task. So the end of April deadline might look, let's say, very far away and like it's leaving you plenty of time. It really isn't. A lot of projects easily reach over 1,000, 1,500 pages of application. Nonetheless, with the right preparation, anticipation, and the right support from experts, this is a high effort but extremely high reward program. And finally, if we look at the very last slide, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the funding format, how it works, and how it's disbursed. So the funding, the Innovation Fund funding has a lump sum format, and it can finance up to 60% of your relevant cost. What we mean by relevant cost is essentially CAPEX plus present value of OPEX, present value of maintenance CAPEX, minus operational benefits and revenues. It's a milestone-based disbursement model. You do not get a pre-financing, and it's extremely important to keep that in mind when you construct your project and your timeline. Payments are tied to the project progress, and after entry into operation, they're also tied to verified GHG emission avoidance. So what you promise today becomes your commitment when you operate. Before the financial close, Innovation Fund allows typically one or, if duly justified, several payments totaling up to 40% of the maximum grant. Again, not automatic. They're released only if the project has met the milestones, the contractual milestones at the end of the related work package. Once the financial close is reached and the project enters the construction phase, it's another work package, it's another ending milestone. Here at entry into operation, essentially, the project can claim up to the difference between 90% of the grant and what has already been paid at financial close. So in other words, you need to keep at least 10% of the grant to the operation phase. Again, Senior checks the evidence, checks that you have met the milestone, and makes the payment. The rest of the grant is disbursed over the years during the operations, so at least 3 years for small scale and pilots, and at least 5 years for the others. And the very last piece of information that I want to leave you with is that the maximum grant amount will be only paid out if the project reaches at least 75% of the total amount of GHG emission planned to be avoided. So if you see the annual installments during operations, they are linked to actual GHG emission avoidance demonstration. So it's extremely important not to promise too much at the beginning, to be ambitious, but to still remain credible, because this becomes a commitment.
Welcome also from my side. My name is Barbara Mendaut. I'm a senior consultant at P&O Innovation in Germany, and I will tell you something about the newest family member of the Innovation Fund family today, which is the pilot auction for industrial heat decarbonization. Next slide, please. So why do we have this new auction scheme and what it is all about? So as a background information, the Commission saw that industrial process heat today is still largely provided by fossil resources, and that seemingly only 4% of industry energy needs are provided by electrified means. While at the same time, the Commission saw that there's a vast technology improvement and many electrification technologies have become available in recent years. But still, there is a cost gap that hinders the market uptake of these technologies. And the Commission also saw that these type of projects were actually underrepresented in the portfolio of innovation-funded projects so far. So that's why they decided to develop this new dedicated scheme specifically for industrial heat. The objective of that scheme is to reduce the direct GHG emissions in industry and to cost effectively support the market uptake of electrified and also direct renewable industrial process heat. And the mechanism they have chosen for this scheme is an auction. So similar to the hydrogen auction that we just talked about, we now also have this auction for industrial heat, which is a competitive bidding procedure on price, meaning that the lowest bid wins. Next slide, please. So now we come to the type of projects that are eligible for the heat auction. First of all, looking at the type of activities or the type of technologies that are eligible for support. This is about the electrification of industrial process heat via technologies such as heat pumps, direct and indirect resistance heating, electric, electromagnetic and dielectric heating, plasma heating. And also the use of direct renewable, for example, solar thermal or geothermal heat for industrial process heat. And also hybrid projects combining the two, let's say, clusters of above mentioned technologies can be eligible. What is very important is that the project that is submitted needs to be about new capacity. So the works for building that new process or facility may not have started before the submission of the proposal. Next step is who can participate in this. No, sorry, can you move back to the previous slide? So who can actually participate in the auction call? These are basically legal entities, public and private bodies that could be established in any country in the world. What is, however, important is that the location where the project is implemented needs to be in an EU member state or an EEA country, the EEA countries being Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. And what is also important that the project should concern only a single location, so virtual pooling is not allowed. With regard to the duration of such a project, projects need to be relatively mature already now because they have to reach their financial close within 2 years after grant signature and then enter into operation within 4 years after grant signature. And following entry into operation to operate for, let's say, at least in frame of the monitoring happening by the auction for 5 years. So next slide, please. So the call for the heat auction was very recently published on the 4th of December. The deadline is already very close by as well. So this will be the 19th of February 2026. So you have a bit more than 2 months to prepare yourself, which means if you're interested in this scheme, I would recommend start working on this right away. And it can be interesting now to participate in particular in the first call of the heat auction, because we have noticed that success chances are often a bit higher during the first call of a new program, because at that or for the first call, often the number of applicants is still a bit lower than later when a program has become more established. So in the call that has now been published is divided into 3 call topics, which are divided regarding temperature, range, and installed capacity. So the first one is for projects with a temperature range between 100 and 400 degrees Celsius and an installed capacity in the range of 3 megawatt thermal to maximum or lower than 5 megawatt thermal. The budget for these projects is 100 million. The maximum project budget for these projects is 100 million, and the total core budget to support this type of projects is 150 million. Plus, there is an additional national budget for Spanish projects of 30 million. Then we have the second topic. This is also for projects in the temperature range of 100 to 400 degrees Celsius, but for projects with an installed capacity larger than 5 megawatts thermal. Here also the project budget is 100 million, and the core budget to support the project, the available budget is 350 million, with an additional 20 million from Spain. And then we have the last topic, which is for projects at a higher temperature of above 400 degrees Celsius. Here, the minimum installed capacity needs to be 3 megawatts thermal, and the maximum project budget should be 250 million, and the total core budget is 500 million. For this part, there is no additional budget available from Spain. So the total core budget is 1 billion. As I already said, there's a complementary national funding from Spain. Next slide, please. So very quickly, how do you calculate your bid price and the grant? So for this, you need to use an Excel template provided by the European Commission, which is the financial information file. And there you have to include, on the one hand, the subsidy you request per unit of produced heat. Then this is transferred, let's say, by the template through a formula in the template, either using the phase 4 ETS heat benchmark or specific benchmarks for the types of fossil fuel that you are replacing, into the amount of CO2 savings that can result from this amount of heat production. Then you also need to include the nominal thermal capacity of your unit and also the volume of expected average yearly heat. And then the maximum grant amount is calculated with the formula that is shown here at the bottom. So your bid price times the volume that you produce times the 4 years of the project, or that the project is in operation. Next slide, please. So then how does the selection work and what are a few key conditions of this call? First of all, the award criteria we have for the heat auction are relevance and quality, quality being divided into technical, financial, and operational maturity. However, contrary to what we will hear about the, let's say, net zero technologies call of the Innovation Fund after this presentation, in the case of the heat auction, these are only scored as fail or pass. So either you pass or you fail. There is nothing like that you can have more lower or higher points for the heat auction. And then in case that you pass on all criteria, projects will be ranked according to their bid price from lowest to highest. And then in order of the ranking, projects will be selected until the core budget has been used up. And then just a few important terms and conditions that we should mention here is that the produced heat in your project needs to be either directly or indirectly measured with an EMAS or ISO 50001 compliant management system. What is very important is that there is no pre-financing payment here, so you will only be paid upon realization if you actually build your facility and produce heat. And also there is a completion guarantee required of 66% of the requested maximum grant. And at the proposal stage, you already need a letter of intent for this guarantee. And then if you are selected, your project must produce the actual guarantee within 2 months after receiving the evaluation result. So that was everything from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, great. We will now continue with one of the core elements of today's session, the award criteria. This part will be presented by Dr. Susan Pollers. Thank you. And myself. Susan, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tufik. So my name is Susan Pollers. I'm senior consultant at P&O Innovation in Germany. Could you go, please, to the next slide, Tufik? Okay, so what you can see here is, again, the overview of the award criteria for the Net Zero Technology Call of this year's Innovation Fund. As Colleen already explained in detail, so there are 5 main criteria, which are the degree of innovation, the GHG emissions avoidance, the maturity, replicability, and the cost efficiency criterion. Each of these criterions or criteria contributes 15 points to the total score, except of GHG emissions avoidance. Here, projects can get up to 12 points. In addition, there are 3 bonus points that projects could reach. So that means in the general decarbonization topic, projects can reach a maximum of 75 points in total. These award criteria indeed apply to all 5 topics of the Net Zero Technology Call, so also the clean tech manufacturing and the pilot topic. However, their scoring differs a bit, and I will explain this later in detail. To understand what exactly evaluators want to read in your application and will assess is definitely key for your Innovation Fund application, because even small differences in the scoring could influence whether your project will be selected or not. And that's why we will have a closer look at each of the single award criteria. Next slide, please. So first of all, the degree of innovation criteria. This still remains a central criterion in this year's Innovation Fund call. So that means evaluators will assess in how far your project goes beyond the technological and the commercial state of the art, always taking into account the European level. Furthermore, you have to compare your solution with already funded projects within the Innovation Fund. So that means applicants have to check carefully all ongoing Innovation Fund projects in their sector and then have to explain in detail your project stands out. In case your project is very similar to an already ongoing project, your scoring for the degree of innovation criterion will definitely be lower. In the context of the Innovation Fund, we talk about innovation when a solution is substantially different from what is already available. So this can involve major technical adjustments of your technology. It can include the adaptation of your technology to be deployed in a new sector or a completely new application. It could be the integration of several technologies within one system, or if your project overcomes main technological or economic barriers. For large-scale demonstration projects, it is expected that it is a first-of-kind commercialization, except for pilot projects, of course. So indeed, for pilots, the scale should be adequate to the pre-commercial stage. So exactly this is also evaluated under the degree of innovation criterion. Next slide, please. The second major criterion is the GHG emission avoidance. This includes the absolute GHG emission avoidance, which is the difference between the reference and the project scenario over the first 10 years of operation. The scoring is based, so the scoring for this absolute emission avoidance is based on the ranking of the absolute GHG avoided within your sector. That means the project or all projects with median absolute GHG savings will receive 1 point for this criterion, while highest ranked proposals will receive up to 2 points, and those proposals with lower absolute GHG savings than the median will receive less. Furthermore, relative GHG emission avoidance is assessed. This is the percentage reduction in GHG emissions compared to the reference scenario, also calculated over the first 10 years of operation. Finally, also the quality of the calculation is critical. This means that your methodology must be robust, it must be transparent, and of course compliant with all requirements of the GHG guidelines. Next slide, please. Then we come to the maturity criterion. So evaluation of the maturity covers the technical, the financial, and the operational maturity. Technical maturity assesses the technical feasibility of your project, including the technology readiness level, previous works on smaller scales, and also the technical risks. Financial maturity includes the financial viability of your project and a robust, credible, and secured financing plan. Indeed, the financial maturity is the most frequent cause for projects to fail in the Innovation Fund evaluation. And that means that applicants should really pay special attention to this criterion. Third is the operational maturity. This covers the implementation of your project. So the work plan, the time planning, permitting procedures, but also your contracting strategy. Okay, next slide. Then let's go on with the replicability criterion. So this means, or this is the broader value that your project brings beyond its own implementation. And as Colleen already explained, this has been slightly revised this year. It evaluates the efficiency gains and environmental co-benefits, including circularity and recycling aspects, and also the do no significant harm, or the compliance with the do no significant harm principle. Beside this, replicability of the EU industrial leadership and competitiveness contribution of the projects. Part of this are the integration with strategic energy infrastructure, the development of new IP, or the cooperation with universities and industries for capacity building. Also, the knowledge sharing plan plays a major role here. Exactly, next slide, please. Then we come to the cost efficiency. So cost efficiency in general assesses how effectively the project converts the grant funding into GHG savings. And the core indicator here is the cost efficiency ratio. This ratio compares your grant amount or your requested grant amount to the project's absolute GHG emission savings over the first 10 years of operation. Second part of this criterion is the quality of cost calculation, which assesses the quality and credibility of your cost calculation. Next slide, please. Yeah, then we come to the bonus points. So this year there are only 3 bonus points to be reached. The new one is the bonus point for SMEs, so for projects which are coordinated and implemented by small or medium-sized enterprises. Furthermore, bonus can be given to projects which show a potential to deliver net carbon removals. This means that your relative GHG emission avoidance must be higher than 100%. And another bonus point can be given to projects which contribute to the decarbonization of the maritime sector. Okay, next slide, please. As I've already explained, the award criteria are the same for all 5 topics, but indeed the weighting of the different criteria differs per topic. So for the clean tech manufacturing topic, more emphasis is put on the degree of innovation and the maturity criterion. So scores are counted twice here, so these criteria are doubled, resulting in a total of maximum 105 points that projects could reach. For pilot projects, only the degree of innovation criterion is doubled, resulting in a maximum of 90 points in total. This means that if you plan to submit in clean tech manufacturing or in the pilot topic, please be aware that innovative strength and maturity have an even greater impact on the final score and on your chances to be selected for funding. Okay, next slide, please. So now you know about the award criteria, the scoring, the thresholds of the single award criteria, and so on. But maybe you ask yourself, how many points are really necessary for a project to be selected and to be funded under the Innovation Fund? So this strongly depends on the topic under which you submit your proposal. The highest competition can be or is seen in the general large-scale topic. So here it is clearly not enough to reach all thresholds. Instead, projects must score very high in every single award criterion. And half a point even could make the difference of getting selected or not. The success chances are, so based on our experience, in the general large-scale topic, it is necessary to reach more than 92% of all points in order to be selected. The success chances are slightly better in the pilots, clean tech manufacturing, and also in the mid-scale topic. For small-scale projects, indeed, in the last years, passing all thresholds still allowed the projects to be or to get selected. If this will be also the case this year, we cannot say this, but definitely success rates have been the highest in the general small scale call based on the lowest competition here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. So with that, we will go to the next part, next session. So here we are. So in this part of the session, we will look at two central elements of any innovation fund application, the greenhouse gas emission avoidance and the relevant cost calculation. These two components determine both the eligibility and the competitiveness of the proposal. Greenhouse gas emission avoidance influences the scoring, while relevant costs define the possible grant amount and directly affect cost efficiency. So let's begin with the GHG emission avoidance methodology. The Innovation Fund uses strictly standardized methodology for calculating GHG emission avoidance. This ensures that all projects across sectors, technologies, and scales are evaluated on a comparable basis. To help applicants, the methodology is broken into clear 6 steps process. So first one is understanding your project. So you identify the main activity, the technology deployed, and the boundaries of the installation. In the second step, you need to classify your project and identify the methodology. Each project type, whether industrial process, renewable energy, energy storage, mobility, or carbon management, has a dedicated methodological path. First step would be understand the GHG emission avoidance covered and the boundaries of the project. This includes defining which emissions occur inside and outside your project, and which ones are part of the calculation. In the fourth step, you should identify the reference scenario. Determining what the project is compared against is absolutely fundamental. So the reference scenario must reflect today's commercially available conventional alternative. Step number 5 would be complete the GHG calculators. These calculators generate both the absolute and the relative emission avoidance values. And the last step is, upload the calculator in the EU portal. By following these steps carefully, you can ensure that your calculations are complete, consistent, and credible. So here just a small look. I think this is something we discussed enough today, but it's really important here to know how is the evaluation of this criterion. Absolute 2 points, relative 5 points, quality 5 points. And to be sure you get the quality, please follow these 6 steps I showed you before. It's really very important because here we also have a threshold of 3 points. If you don't get it, so the project will fail. And with that, I will come to the next slides. Here also, my colleague Suzanne showed you before how to calculate the absolute and the relative emission avoidance. What is the absolute? It's the difference between the reference scenario and the emissions in the project scenario. So this means we compare our project with the reference scenario, so with the emissions that would occur if our project is not there, with the absence of our project. So 50% relative emission avoidance is mandatory for net zero technology topics, and for pilots 75%. And the calculation is always calculated over a fixed period of 10 years after entry into operation. In the GHG calculation, we must account for all greenhouse gases regulated under the EU ETS directives. This includes also other GHG gases than CO2, for example, methane, iron oxide, and so on. All emission factors for all greenhouse gases shall be expressed in CO2 equivalent. But there's also other GHG emissions which are generally excluded from the scope, like manufacturing and so on. Will not go very deeply in the methodology. Here, very important to know, the GHG methodology applies differently across sectors. Colleen showed you before how the sectors are divided within the Innovation Fund. For the GHG methodology, it's also important to know to which sector you apply, because there is a methodology to each section, a methodology to each sector. So, for example, the energy-intensive industry calculate both process and combustion emissions and may include substitution effects and far more than that. The details we'll find in the methodology section number 2. The renewable energy projects focus on displacing fossil-based electricity or heat. You can apply for component manufacturing also, or for whole system, but the details you will find in section number 3 of the methodology, and so on. We have the energy storage category in methodology section number 4. And the category mobility projects model conventional transport emission as a reference. In section number 5 of the methodology and the carbon capture and storage, here projects quantify avoided industrial process and emission and permanent storage. Details in methodology section number 6. And the clean tech manufacturing, these use relevant sector methods depending on product use stage emission. And with that, I will go to the relevant costs. With that, I can shift from the climate impact dimensions to the financial dimensions. Especially the relevant cost calculation, which forms the basis for the Innovation Fund grant amount. To be eligible for funding, a project must have positive relevant costs. So this means that over the 10-year assessment period, the discounted operating costs and the initial CapEx exceed the discounted operational revenues and benefits. So, in simple terms, the Innovation Fund only finances projects that demonstrate a financing gap linked to the innovative technology. So, if relevant costs are greater than 0, the project is eligible for funding. If relevant costs are equal or below 0, the project is considered financially viable without Innovation Fund support and is therefore not eligible. So the eligibility test is not about total project profitability over its lifetime. It's about showing that the innovative component and over the defined 10-year window, a financial gap exists. So relevant costs also define the maximum grant amount. The Innovation Fund can support up to 60% of relevant costs, regardless of the absolute project size. The relevant costs formula using the default no reference plant methodology is CapEx undiscounted, discount OpEx, discounted maintenance CapEx minus discounted revenues minus discounted operational benefits, it's then the relevant costs. So also CapEx plus OpEx minus revenues minus benefits is equal to the relevant costs. Operational benefits include, for example, avoided purchases of EU ETS allowances or revenues from surplus allowances, or future cash flows must be discounted using the project WACC calculated according to the Innovation Fund rules. So finally, the grant amount requested should be strategically chosen. So a lower grant, if financially viable for sure, improve the cost efficiency ratio, which is a decisive scoring element. This is why the financial model and GHG model must be aligned. So to sum up, GHG emission avoidance and relevant costs calculations form the backbone of an innovation fund proposal. One defines the project's climate impact, the other defines the funding needs, and both directly influences the evaluation score. A high quality application is one that rigorously follows the GHG methodology, clearly justifies the reference scenario and emission boundaries, provide a transparent and well-structured relevant cost calculation, and finally links all financial inputs to the technical and operational assumptions. Mastering these two components significantly increased the project's competitiveness and credibility. So with that, I would say let's move to the practical perspective, challenges and lessons learned with Andrea. Andrea, do please.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Nice to be here and to participate in this very interesting webinar. My name is Andrea Rausa. I'm an environmental engineer working P&O for 15 years. I'm currently the coordinator for all the EU funding business unit in P&O Italy. I will walk you through some slides that are related, they are divided in two parts. In the first part, we're going to have some statistics from the latest Innovation Fund 24 call. And after that, we're going to give you some lessons learned from two CSAs that were presented at the beginning and that are behind the organization of this webinar, meaning the LEADS project and the DIAMONDS4IF project. So on this, well, let's start with some numbers and some statistics. These are the latest results that came between September and November, in October, for the past Innovation Fund Call 24. As you can see, there are the different topics that were presented by Colin at the beginning. There are different statistics. There are 373 proposals submitted in total. Only 61 were funded in the large scale, let's say, topic, plus 6 funded under the battery. So that's 67 in total. You will see also the number of proposals funded per topic and call. As you can see, there's different competition. It was already mentioned by Suzanne before. It was a different level competition between the large scale, medium and small scale, and also the other topics. On the right, you will see our statistics at P&O Innovation. We've been supporting we have been supporting Innovation Fund projects since day one in 2020. So we gather a lot of expertise and we support a lot of projects. In total, we supported over 5 years. We supported more than 110 successful projects, and at the last call we supported 29 projects, of which 14 were funded, so with a very good success rate on our side. Next slide, please. So let's go a little bit of lesson learned from these actual results. What it can show, you can see on the graph on the left, out of 359 proposals, this is only focused on the net zero technology, so on the grants. We're not talking about the auctions here. So on the net zero technologies, out of 359, as I said, only 61 made it up to the have been invited to the grant agreement preparation, which is now in process. Project will start before summer next year, after the signature of the grant agreement. As you can see, the main reasons of failure for projects are, first of all, the administrative and admissibility and eligibility part, which is the first block. The failure on the degree of innovation has reduced over the years, so is now only 14 not passing this threshold, which is still quite important, as my colleagues explained before. The main one is in both graphs that you see here is the fail on financial maturity. Financial maturity is very much related to the business model of your project, to your financial model, to the correctness and let's say quality of your financials, how you present it, and the data and the coherence of the data you present in your application. 30% of the proposals show lack of maturity or wrong assumption for also the GHG emission calculation. So it is both about the maturity of your project, but also how the quality of the data you present and the assumptions on which you based your calculations. Next slide. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. As I said, almost 20% of the proposals were not actually evaluated because they failed to pass the admissibility and eligibility criteria. Check. There are several mistakes. Sometimes there are mandatory annexes missing, for example, relevant cost calculator, Gantt chart, etc. The budget or CapEx are not respected in the sense that the relevant cost, so there is a methodology in the innovation fund to be followed, is not followed, or the results is a CapEx or relevant cost that is over the threshold. So make sure you check the guidelines. Make sure you follow the instructions of the guidelines and also on the budget, timeline, activities. Next. Yeah, when it comes to innovation fund, it was already said that it's a very important criterion. The main points here are that technical innovation is not really substantiated. Technology readiness level is too low. Please remember that innovation fund is for really mature projects. They are not only close to market, or these first of a kind industrial application processing, industrial projects. Some of the lessons learned are on the right. There are limited novelty related to existing IF project. It's very important. You need to benchmark your project to compare your project to, or not only to the state of the art in terms of BATs or similar, but also in terms of compared to the previously funded innovation fund projects. As you can imagine, the innovation fund has been there for is in the 6th year now. So every year the score, let's say the threshold of the innovation increases a little bit. So you need to demonstrate that you are better than all the other projects that were funded before. Another one is the insufficient technical evidence for claimed innovation. You need to claim your innovation with parameters, with feasibility study, and substantiated with data, with test results, etc. Another one is a limited focus on business model and market innovation, which is also part of the innovation. In the innovation fund, innovation is not solely technical innovation. That is, of course, important, but innovation can be also non-technical in terms of business model, value chain, market, product, etc. Next one. When it comes to technical maturity, The most common error, or well, let's say some lesson learned here, that there is an imbalance between innovation and technical maturity. This is a kind of a chicken and egg dilemma under the Innovation Fund that we've encountered several times. How to balance the fact that you need to present a project that is disruptive or highly innovative on one side, but on the other hand, you need to convince the evaluator and reassure the European Commission that there is putting the money on a project that is mature and it will ultimately be realized over the time that is presented in the project. This is quite a challenge. We've seen many projects that struggle to maintain these two parts in the proposal. So this is a very important part challenge for your application. The other one is the lack of evidence in terms of scale-up ability. These projects come from, let's say, they progress from R&D to lab to demo to pilot, and then to finally to first of a kind industrial application. Sometimes it's difficult in all these steps to demonstrate the abilities of the promoters, of the project promoters, to scale up from, let's say, an industrial pilot to a full-scale pilot. Sometimes, depending on the process or the product, the order of magnitude of the scale-up is quite important. There are others that are here in this slide. Maybe it's good to mention that you also, for technical maturities, you need to demonstrate the integration challenge, that you're able to integrate different technologies or to bring the innovation into a full-scale plant. So you need to make sure to cover also the integration part, industrial integration. So the Innovation Fund proposal should be built, should be looked at as an investment case and not as a research proposal. Next, please. On financial maturity, as we said, is probably the most difficult criteria to meet for applicants. The main errors are inconsistent information in the application. As I say, quality of data, quality of information, also across different files, is paramount for the application. Is very important. There is a very high level of scrutiny from the evaluators on the financials. There are several files to be presented. They all have to be connected and let's say have the same data, the same assumptions behind, etc. When it comes to the assumptions, it's very often there is a lack of evidence of the assumptions. For example, if there's a purchase price or a product selling price, it needs to be substantiated with the market analysis or with letters of support by off-takers that give evidence of the willingness to pay by clients about the willing to pay that price for those volumes in that, let's say, over a time of over certain time frame that is related to the project. Other lessons learned are on the right. There is business models may be sometimes oversimplified. There is very important. You need to argument and elaborate how and to substantiate how and which are the steps to reach FID or financial close. Sometimes it's still conditional to other factors like policy or permitting or offtake or presence of offtake agreements, etc. You should have this as mature as possible in your application. Next, please. You can see here some more lesson learned. This is a graph taken from the European Commission. In general, in total, I would say the Innovation Fund does not finance projects that cannot stand on their own economically. This is very important. The Innovation Fund is not to, let's say, it is partially to de-risk your business model, of course, but in principle, you should demonstrate that thanks to the, also thanks to the Innovation Fund grants that you receive, your profit and losses and your business model is positive. And even if you don't receive the Innovation Fund, you should be able to demonstrate that you're very, very close to a profit and loss that is positive. Next, please. For what it comes to internal resource and organization, the Innovation Fund is quite a big, let's say, job to be done. In general, it also depends from the size of the project, but we can say that is between 700 and 1,500 hours of work over the 4 to 5 months. Just a very rough estimation. But also is a multidisciplinary teamwork. You need key personnel and skills to be mobilized in the company. Sometimes you might need consultants to also help you on some of the parts or in managing the whole process, which is quite complicated. It's important to have internal resources with expertise and competences in the company or in your organization. It's important to appoint a PM, a dedicated PM, a project manager for the project, for the Innovation Fund application. You also have to take into consideration competences related to financials, to greenhouse gas emission calculation, to permitting an IPR, to operational implementation. So it is really a multidisciplinary team effort. And a complex program. Next slide, please. Yeah, we now go into the second part of this lesson learned. This lesson learned come from the two CSAs that we mentioned are behind the organization of these webinars, meaning LEADS and DIAMONDS4IF. As was presented by my colleagues at the beginning, I'm also the coordinator of LEADS, by the way. What we've done during the 1.5 years so far in this, actually 2 years so far in these CSAs, we've been evaluating projects coming from Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe finance projects, so more R&D, let's say, projects, and to understand with the coordinators, with the what we call project promoters or project owners, to understand the possibility to bring these projects to the innovation, to an application for the Innovation Fund. What we found is that in doing so is that many times bringing results from the research innovation to full deployment, also including through the Innovation Fund, has several bottlenecks and gaps. Some of these that we've encountered are, for example, the high risk profile of these projects that comes from the R&D, especially for large projects, and especially if you go into the Innovation Fund being a first-of-a-kind, financing first-of-a-kind projects. It means that these projects are still not very attractive for investors, not to mention banks and lenders, but even venture capitalists or other sort of or investment funds, for example, because the risk level is still too high. The scope, activities, and business model. Another point is that often the scope, the concept, and the package of the project is coming from the R&D project is not necessarily the same that would fit with the Innovation Fund. So it will need several let's say restructuring, sometimes enlarging, sometimes reshaping the concept of the project, adding some technologies, adding some parts of the value chain upstream or downstream. So these need to be considered quite ahead, because these are all elements that are crucial for the Innovation Fund application. There is a long development time for these projects, because especially for large scale project, we're talking about very large investments with a lot of elements, as I said, in the concept. There's also risk of obsolescence of technologies over time if you wait too much, or IP or competition, increasing costs. So we are witnessing a lot of in the last years with the inflation and with the geopolitical situations in Europe and in the world, and other external factors. So you need to consider all this if you want to move your project from the R&D area to the more first of a kind, full industrial case. So the elements are different, the elements to be considered, the priorities. Another main lesson learned is that the lack of clear ownership of IP and financing. As we know, as we've seen, as in P&O, we also support a lot of Horizon project, Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe project. We see often that there is, of course, there are mandatory, let's say, actions and activities and tasks in the project for exploitation, for explodable results, to define explodable results and explodable key explodable results and exploitation strategies. But we see that sometimes there is a lack of engagement by technology providers or end users, and especially companies willing to invest in that technology. So the work is done maybe by academia, by technology providers or technology developers, and there is a missing link between these and the market. What are the actors that actually will use that technology? The actors that actually will license that technology? And actually these are the latter are the real innovation fund actors, because those will be the ones to bridge to bring that technology into a full-scale plant, be it with different business models. It can be through an EPC with a license. It can be through a technology provider that buy the technology and make plants for other end users. It can be the final end users that buy the technology or the license and put it in its premises in a first of kind of plant. Next, please. Yeah, a couple of more lesson learns, general lesson learns are that the business models are not robust or mature enough. Is very much linked to what I just said on the IP and ownership. And then companies realize during the IF application they need to change their business model. They need to change their financial, because they don't adapt to what the innovation fund is asking, especially for SMEs. And this is very important for this year's call, because it has put, as my colleague said, it has put a lot of focus on the SMEs. It's important to understand the whole value chain. Maybe an external consultant can help you on this also. Check your business model within a wider value chain to be presented in the innovation fund. Internal resources, we already talked about this, so we can go to the next slide, please. As I said, the innovation fund is very resource intensive. There is a rigid process. On one end is good because you know beforehand all the rules. I'm referring especially to if somebody is used to some national grants where sometimes is timing and rules are not very consistent. In the case of the innovation fund, there are clear rules. You can check ahead what is needed. There are a lot of guidelines, a lot of let's say materials to be used for that. But still, the effort is quite intensive. Also, there's a lot of data to be provided. The level of data is quite deep, especially when it comes to GHG, cost efficiency, and the financials. And some of these parameters are linked among them. For example, the cost efficiency is a fraction between relevant cost and absolute greenhouse gas emission, as Tawfiq explained before. So there is a need to check that all data are consistent across different files, different Excels, and different formulas, for example. Next slide. Yeah. On this one, Patrizia, I don't know if you want to take this on diamonds.
Yeah. Yeah, just a couple of points from the renewable energy sector. What we have also saw is that there are a very strong global competition and very stark industry challenges, and European RES operators struggle to compete with projects which came from other countries like China, and despite the European ambition for energy strategic autonomy and sector, in this it was sometimes very difficult to do a good structured project. And also some key technologies for renewables, which are very important, like noise mitigation by wind parks or offshore solar infrastructure. There are some specific technologies which are very important for renewable, but are not they are not included in the innovation fund criteria, even if they are very important for increasing renewable energy production in Europe or for specific project, and they have a good impact on the climate and environment. But it's difficult to keep all technologies and together and be competitive for innovation fund project and applications.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrizia. So final couple of slides on some recommendations to project owners. Project owners for us, as I said, are partners of European projects or let's say organizations that have projects that have been financed before, or even organizations that don't have projects that have been financed before and they are willing to go thinking of going into the innovation fund. As we say, the deployment of innovative technologies from research innovation into full scale requires defining and maturing several steps. These are only some of them. As an example, you need to really think about the IPs. There are the main IPs to be brought forward and develop a strategy, and also be sure about the ownership of those IPs and how you will develop those IPs, be it with a licensing agreement or with a direct control of IP and patents, for example, or with a co-development with other companies, other organizations. The ownership is very important, as I said. The budget of the project is very important. To start ahead to do your breakdown budget and be as detailed as possible, even if you don't have a full feasibility study done, but start the cost assessment in parallel. You should, before the application, there's not a rule on this, but before the application on Innovation Fund, the feasibility study and the cost assessment should be at a mature level, because you will need all those elements to be put into the application. I'm talking about first round with technology suppliers to know the cost, to know the main decisions on technology setup and integration and technology choice. So don't leave too many options on technology choice, especially on the main technologies, on the core technologies of your process or let's say a product. And bring all this into the budget for cost estimation as much as possible for your CapEx and OpEx, and it needs to be quite detailed. And you need to define the main financials of the full project. So who is going to finance the project, including the public funding, the private investors, the banks, including the owners of your own companies, if it's a large corporate, or your shareholders. Technical economic analysis, technical feasibility engineering, and cost assessment, very important. You should have a life cycle assessment, or at least a preliminary assessment of environmental impact. This is very important for all European projects. It's even more important for the Innovation Fund, which is under the ETS. So let's not forget, the money is coming from the European Trading Scheme. So the main goal is the decarbonization of the European industry. Market analysis is very important to substantiate all your financials, your data, especially on the revenues. We can go on the next slide. I think is the final one. Yeah. There are more critical elements to be. I'm not going to go too much into details. This very important is the agreements with the crucial stakeholders of all the value chain that you need to present in the Innovation Fund. And this goes from upstream to materials provider or fuel providers, and whoever is, or let's say if there's a pre-treatment before your process need to be done, down to the downstream, the off-takers of your product or your CO2 in the case of CCUS projects or something like that. You need to have letter of support, strong letter of support, or memorandum of understandings with all these actors, meaning not general letters. It means that if you claim that your product will be sold at a certain price for certain volumes to that client needs to sign a letter signing that is going to be that product for that price, for that time, for that volume, those volumes. So this is very important. The evaluators are very
But I think you will continue here with this next events.
Yeah, we are excited. I want to take a couple of minutes more. We're excited to present you 2 events that we're gonna organize for the new year, together with LEADS and DIAMONDS. The first one is organized by LEADS on the 19th of February. So we're gonna have an innovation fund webinar. It's going to be a more, let's say, deep dive technical into some technical aspects on how to prepare a good proposal. So it could be complementary. If somebody's already preparing the proposal for IF25 before April, you can use it. We're going to give some tips and tricks on some of the how to build a winning proposal. And then the next one is going to be in May, 12th of May. We're going to have a public conference in Brussels. This is a big one. I invite all of you to participate. It's very important. It's organized with DG Clima, DG Research, and CINEA. So you will have the possibility to meet also let's say, the people behind the Innovation Fund program, and also hear from them what are their priorities, how the European Commission sees the program. So again, if you need more information, you will receive more information. We will send for sure to all the registered partners in this webinar all this information. Thank you very much. I think we can move to the next.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, right. I think it's time to move to the open questions. Let's see. Yeah,
I would like to say something to the open question.
Please.
We will summarize all the questions received during the meeting in the PowerPoint presentation, and we will send to you the PowerPoint presentation. Now, I would say 15 minutes left. If you have any further question, or we have forgotten to answer any questions that you have written, please raise your hand. I will enable your microphone so we can discuss it live, of course, if we have a quick answer to you. So I would just suggest we try with the hand and enabled microphones. And I would please all my colleagues just to maybe put your camera on and and we try to answer the questions live. Or if you have, and you can go to the next slide. So I just conclude. If you have any other questions, you can write to me or to Andrea. You have the email addresses in a couple in the slide before. Yes, here you can find also our email address here. And next slide, we will put on the Diamonds YouTube channel, as we said before, the registration of the meeting, so you can also see it.
So
let's see if someone has a question.
There's no raising hands.
Or you write it if you prefer. There are a couple of questions. Or we can take the Q&A last question, for example. In lump sum proposal, science practice to artificially split work packages per year to optimize the disbursement of fund. What is common practice in EF? Is there Colin Perrin? please.
Yeah, so for indeed, Innovation Fund is a lump sum program. There is, let's say, a standard implementation where you have a work package one that goes to financial close, then work package two up to entry into operation, and then an annual work package during operation. That being said, there is a little bit of flexibility. For instance, if you want to divide the first work package to have an intermediate payment, for instance, there is no specific rule against it or no specific rule on how to do it. The one thing you can do is divide a work package, ensuring that it's milestone based. So you cannot divide, let's say, work package 1 into 1.1 for the first year and 1.2 for the second one. It has to be the achievement of a milestone that triggers the end of a work package and therefore a payment. So typically, because your question is mostly related to these first two work packages up to entry into operation, typically you can divide them in two, maybe three, but it's extremely rare. It's all, in any case, to be negotiated with your project officer once your project has been awarded and you're negotiating the grant agreement. The grant agreement is the only official document that will explain the disbursement of the grant. In any case, there will not be a pre-financing. And in any case, the disbursement of the grant, you need to imagine a scenario because it needs to be also aligned with your financial information file, in which you compute, of course, you integrate the grant disbursement in your financial scenario.
Thank you, Colleen. I have here another question. Maybe what are the strategies you have used to approach the distributive but low risk and mature chicken and egg issue Andrea talked about?
Yeah, maybe I can take this. Yeah, it's not an easy one. As I said, you need to demonstrate both an edge on innovation, so a competitive edge on innovation, and in the sense that you need to demonstrate that your project is innovative, not only compared to the state of the art and the best available technology available on the market, but also on the previous innovation fund projects already funded in the past 5 years. This is doable. You need to define. There are, I think, two approaches for the innovation. One thing we will suggest is to, well, of course, make a state-of-the-art analysis, and this state-of-the-art analysis should include the previous innovation fund project. So already included in your state-of-the-art analysis, and compare your project one by one with this project. So make a table where your project is compared to this project, this previous innovation fund projects or existing commercial projects, for instance. In terms of the technical, the maturity for your projects, you need there's a mandatory annex, which is the feasibility study, where you will need to put the state-of-the-art comparison, but you will also have the other parts of the feasibility study. You will also have to describe your technology, describe the main features of your technologies, but also describe everything that you've done to mature this technology to the TRL that you claim at the moment of the application. So whatever tests that you've done, not only in the lab, but especially if we're talking about big complex project, you need to demonstrate not only mature the technology itself, but also you did test on in an integrated package of the technology on a pilot, for example. So you need to provide data from pilot tests, pilot campaigns, test campaigns, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Here we have a question from Dimitris. Please try to wait a moment. We don't hear you. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yep,
thank you for this webinar. I have a general question concerning the heat auction. I work for TVP Solar. We are a technology provider for solar thermal, and we are interested in this in the topic of medium temperature heat, the small size projects, 3 to 5 megawatt thermal. But in general, in the heat auction, and I would like to ask you, because it's the first time that we have this auction, if you can share with us any insights about the level of interest that potential, let's say, applicants have expressed. I'm just asking this because I was wondering if we can make a kind of estimation of the bid prices in terms of euro per ton of CO2, to which extent it could, let's say, be more than 300 or even 400 euro per ton. Could you comment on this, take some risk to make some, let's say, estimation about the expected level of competition?
Tufik, do you want to say something?
Yeah, for sure I can say something, but you already presented the heat auction. It's really difficult to say now at this stage how much should your bid be. There is a strictly way to calculate your bid at the beginning. There's a couple of parameters you should take into consideration, as Baba showed before. Do you have flexibility? You're not in which basket you are, and so on. And after you have done your calculation, it's a strategical decision for you, for your project, and for your company. So where do you want to put yourself? Because only that what you apply for, you will get from European Commission, and everything is strictly monitored and should be also audited every report. You will send the report every 6 months after enter operation for 5 years, and depending on this report, you will get your funding. So if you go for low bid, so you will get the money, but everything above that, you will not get it. So, and if you apply for very high bid, I understand your point. So it can be difficult for you to win or to get the funding. Now is the first time for this auction. It's a pilot. So from this point of view, I think applicants that apply this year for this heat auction will have better chance than applicants will apply the next years if it continues. Let's see. From this point, I would say you can take a bit more risk, but keep it in a frame that, not too much risk. Let's say that. I don't know, Barbara, do you want to add something to it?
No, I think that's the best answer you can provide.
Okay. Daniel.
I wanted to say excellent series of presentations. I learned almost too much. The question I have is the company that I work for does supply chain traceability for circular economy like implementation. So we do not necessarily the kind of hardcore emissions reduction technologies, but we do a lot of the documentation and the facilitation of those of implementing those technologies, like making it easier to move things, making it easier for people to apply those things. Is that just as viable a strategy for the IF, as long as we apply the GHG reduction model as rigorously as we need to, or would it make sense to join maybe like kind of find an addition to someone else's project that really focuses hardcore on the GHG reductions? Like I'm wondering how something like what we do how does it relate to direct versus more indirect approaches to GHG reductions?
Yeah, I think I can take that also. It's at the end, I think Colleen showed that, and I showed that also. The project should be a part of this of the sectors shown in the call documents or in the methodology, or you should replace one product that belongs to these sectors. So in your case, it's a bit difficult. It's about how you define your project, how you define the boundaries of your project. I think you can think in a way to make kind of partnership, build a consortium with someone from the industry who can save these GHG emissions, and then work together in one project. So in this way, I think you will be able to join and to get benefits out of this scheme. Otherwise, it could be difficult. So I think one more question we can take.
Yeah. Alexandra. Yeah.
Hello, thank you very much. You have already started a little bit to explain. To reply, so in our case, for example, we do a technology, but it's not how to call it. It's not a product which will be used immediately itself. It should be integrated in a truck, and then the truck should be sold to some operator, and then the operator will bring this to the road and so on. So this timeline can be longer than even 5-10 years. For example, project will start, we develop something, then it will be integrated, and then I'm not sure how is it feasible at all to monitor the GHG emissions, because is the truck sold? Is it actually on the road? How is it used? So tracking this is, I'm not sure if it's feasible. Is it enough to kind of anticipate like this number of hydrogen storage vessels have been sold? So we estimate that this GHG emission was actually implemented, or should we have some, I don't know, sensors inside the vehicle which check actual outcome of the project? I'm not sure how to operationally implement this, so to show the KPIs at some point 10 years later. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really open question. We should go in details regarding this this product. For general, if you produce only a component, a part of a vehicles, it's definitely eligible. You can submit. You have the right. Your project will be eligible, and we will or the methodology say we compare the vehicle with your project with the vehicle without your project, but you should be able to monitor that and to prove that there is kind of GHG savings in your project and the system in general. And here we go. So here is the point where we should be really very we should go in details with these points and to check exactly is it okay, is eligible or it's not eligible. So you can for sure contact Patricia regarding that. Perhaps we can make one-to-one meeting later next week or in January.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think with this we conclude today's Innovation Fund 2025 Info Day. So on behalf of the entire P&O Innovation team and our project partners, I would like to thank all speakers and all participants for joining us. So we hope today's insight will support you in your preparation to the IF25 call, and we wish you a productive day and look forward to staying in contact. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
by